Hey there, AP European History students. This is Mr. Moore, and we're continuing on our study of European history, and we're really trying to get ready for that AP test. It's always important to remind yourself at this point, what am I trying to do? What am I trying to accomplish? What's my end goal here? Why did I sign up for this class in the first place? Oh yeah, I want to get college credit while I'm still a high school student. I want to be successful. I want to go into college and be a sophomore my first year because I already have college credit. So I'm going to try to remind you and inspire you and remind you of what we're doing here. If you want to score that 5, even if you want to have a shot at getting a 4. And for even some of you, even if you just want to pass the test and get a 3, it's really amazing how little difference there is between a 2 and a 3. A 2 on an AP test does not give you college credit, a 3 does. And so many people just barely miss the mark. And so if you're taking the time to watch these videos, or if you're getting sick of my voice and you want to pause and just go and read the key concept study guides on your own time and go and look stuff up on your own, that's a great opportunity. Because what I'm doing in these videos is trying to just dialogue, maybe bring some of the words to life, maybe try to explain them, give you a different perspective at looking at them. But today we're going to focus just on topic 2.7, art of the 16th century, particularly Mannerism and Baroque art. And I'm going to jump right over right now to a presentation. If you're on my website and you go to the AP European History tab that has all of the agendas and everything, all of my notes, as a great resource with tons of YouTube videos that are way better than the ones I'm producing that cover key concepts and ideas from European history. I have right here a link to the European art history lesson, and if you click on that link right there, it will take you to this right here. This is what it looks like. It's just a PowerPoint with all kinds of artwork covering the different topics. We've already reviewed great artists from the Renaissance, but there is a piece of the Renaissance, a sort of the end of the Renaissance era that's different. It's called Mannerism. It's very late Renaissance-y art. It's abstract. It has exaggerated physiques. It's very stylized. And it's distortion and drama. El Greco is one of the famous Mannerist artists. And then you'll also get into some people who are incredibly abstract even. And this is, again, Renaissance art. If you look at this right here, it also says Baroque art. As the joke goes, if it's not Baroque, don't fix it. I know that's a horrible pun, but if you ever watched like Beauty and the Beast, you might know the joke that I was just making right there. Baroque art was kind of supported by the Counter-Reformation. And those of the Counter-Reformation wanted an artistic style to show off powerful emotions, dramatic and exaggerated lighting, religious imagery, and royal grandeur, right? Spectacular depictions of action. The Catholic Church used this style as propaganda to revitalize the Catholic Church during the Reformation. So I'm just going to pause for a second and exaggerate some of these paintings so you can see them. This is a great look at the Baroque art of the era, showing off the grandeur, right? Very religious. A lot of it is. Some of it does harken back to mythology and such, but most of it is religious because the Catholic Church was using it to boost and bolster the Catholic Church during the Counter-Reformation. There's a lot of emotion. Sometimes they'll take old stories, either from the Bible, right, and they'll recreate them. This is a famous story of Judith beheading Hofranz. And it was done by several different artists. This right here is Caravaggio, maybe one of the greatest Baroque painters. But there were other painters as well. You can see the raw emotion. What would drive a woman to kill a man like that? And some people will tell you, hey, it's because the painter herself may have been raped when she was younger, and so she has this animosity and this anger, right, and wants to display that anger. There's so much emotion. This is a carving, right? Bernini is one of the famous sculptures of the Baroque era, and there's so much emotion. That's a piece of marble that's been turned into this emotional state. You can feel the pain, the heartache. Um, this one right here is maybe one of the other great pieces. I'd like to point out, like, this looks like it's actual flesh, as his hand is grabbing in this woman, and he's going to violate her. So she's pushing him away. So again, this is the rape of Persephone. If you're into like a Greek mythology, there's always Roman versions of it as well. But this is a famous Greek mythology story, and you can see again the emotion and the spectacle of it and the grandeur of it. This is maybe one of the best comparisons that I've seen on trying to show you the difference between Renaissance, high Renaissance art. Say like Michelangelo's David is one of the most famous statues of David. I've seen the statue on past AP tests as one of the documents used in multiple choice questions or in a DBQ. But this is the exact same figure, the figure of David, but it's done in the Baroque sense. This is Bernini's David. This is Michelangelo's David. And you can see the differences, right? This is a whole compare and contrast. You can see right here the emotion, okay? And this sequence of action going on right here. Whereas right here, it's more idealistic and it's more symmetry. And that's one of those things that kind of helps you to understand some of the difference between, say, classic Renaissance art. Again, classic Renaissance art, there is some emotion, right? And you get these realistic styles from some of the different Renaissance artists. But Baroque, there is a difference. And again, Mannerism is much more distortion. So I thought that might be good to just kind of start us off by helping us understand this. The learning objective on this topic is explain how and why artistic expression changed from 1450 to 1648, right? So we're going to go from that high Renaissance artwork, like Last Supper, Da Vinci, right? Mona Lisa, Da Vinci, Raphael and his School of Athens, or even Titan, right? As he's painting, or even some of the earlier guys, like say Botticelli, right? The Birth of Venus. We're going to go from that style to this kind of abstract, okay, and this overly grandured artistic styles. Mannerist and Baroque artists employ distortion, drama, and illusion in their work. Monarchies and city-states and the church commissioned these works as a means of promoting their own stature and power. So it's all about showing off. That's what Baroque art is all about. Showing off. So absolute monarchists love Baroque. We're going to get into absolute monarchism in another unit, but they're going to love Baroque art, and so does the church. So here are some illustrative examples of the period. I've already shown you some of the artwork, so we'll just hit them again. Mannerists and Baroque artists whose art was used in new public buildings. El Greco. Okay, if you want me to jump over here, when we get into this, here's a painting from El Greco, just so you can line it up. He's a painter, a sculptor, an architect of the Spanish Renaissance. He is known for Mannerism, a new artistic movement, grew out of Italian Renaissance, but emphasized distortion and drama rather than balance and harmony. That would be more the classic high Renaissance art. I'm going to slaughter, this is an Italian pronunciation, but Artesia Glialenci is an Italian Baroque painter. She is considered one of the most accomplished painters of her time. She specialized in painting pictures of strong and suffering women from myths, allegories, and the Bible, and for being able to convincingly depict female figures. She kind of did it under male names, but that's what I was talking about when I say that This artist was probably personifying some of her own experiences, even though she's recreating biblical stories and stories from the past. So, not very often do you find female artists being so successful, but there you go. This is Bernini. And again, I pointed out Bernini in several of the times. Bernini is probably one of the most famous sculptors during the time, and that's when I showed you some of the differences. That was Bernini. And he's an Italian architect and leading sculptor of his age, maybe one of the best ever, credited with creating a Baroque style of sculptures depicting action, religious imagery, exaggerated light, detail, and grandeur. There's also a Dutch guy named Peter Paul Rubens. He's a Flemish painter, as I've pointed out several times in my review sessions. The Flemish people are Dutch, and there's an actual part of Belgium today called Flanders, where Antwerp, Ghent, Bruges, Brussels is the capital. The southern part down here is French-speaking Wallonia. The Dutch people up here and into the Netherlands. This is Flanders, or the Flemish artists. And Peter Paul Rubens is a painter of the Baroque artistic style whose dramatic works were promoted in the Counter-Reformation. So in between the Mannerism and the Baroque, I do have some of the Dutch masters, but when we're really talking about Peter Paul Rubens, you'd have to come down here a little further, and you'd find some of his works here where it says Dutch artistic style, the Dutch masters right here. The other Dutch painters up here, I put under the category of the Northern Renaissance artistic style, where you get Jan van Eyck and Hubert and Peter Bruegel. But down here, a little bit later, you'd find yourself into some of the Dutch masters, like Peter Paul Rubens. Often in the AP study guide, they put Rembrandt on that Northern Renaissance. But again, if you look at the time period of when Rembrandt is painting, you might have to ask yourself, was he a Northern Renaissance painter? Or was he just an early Baroque painter of the Dutch style? But there's definitely that transition, and that's what we're talking about in this section. So we're going to go ahead and close off. This is the art of the 16th and 17th century. Before I close off, just a reminder that say you love somebody's artwork, you could click on the link in that European art history, and you could go through and see some of the work of a particular artist to your heart's content, and you could read all about them, and you can see a lot more artwork than I just displayed quickly, but that's the beauty of it. Me doing these videos is not meant to cover everything. It's supposed to enhance the learning and the work that you're already doing. So again, this is Mr. Moore. I'm signing off on our review of Unit 2.